This is a true life story of a young hero who lost his entire family in World War II and is left alone to fend for himself. He was eventually adopted by the Russian military, and he did incredible things to save them during the war. In the 1940s, during World War II, we are introduced to a young boy named Serioza, who is seen enjoying a quiet moment in nature as he sits on a tree trunk, observing his surroundings while his mother washes clothes by the river, and his older brother Petya fishes nearby. Suddenly, a plane appears and starts shooting at them. In a panic, Serioza's mother tells the boys to hide. But Serioza is armed with a slingshot, and he starts to shoot at the plane until he manages to bring it down. Excited by his victory, he looks down from the tree wanting to share the moment with his mother and brother. But to his horror, they have vanished. Before he can process what has happened, Serioza is startled by a knock on the door. He rushes to answer, thinking it must be his mother. Instead, it was his Aunt Anisia, who enters the room and immediately tells Serioza that both his mother and brother have been killed, as she also tells him that if the soldiers discovered Serioza was his mother's son, they would kill him too. So, she had come up with plans to protect him by pretending he is her own child. But before they can escape, German soldiers raid the house. Anisia was able to help Serioza slip out through a window, but she is shot and killed while doing so. Terrified at what he just witnessed, Serioza runs into the forest. And although he is frightened, the boy continues to cling to the hope that his mother might still find him as he goes to hide by a river. However, as he takes shelter among the roots of a large tree, a snake suddenly appears beside him. Despite his overwhelming fear, Serioza remains silent, as he sees that some German soldiers have arrived by the river, and he knew that being caught by the soldiers would be even worse for him. After a while, the soldiers leave and Serioza takes advantage of the moment, as he manages to sneak away from the snake and the danger. In his desperate state, Serioza scours the area hoping to get some leftovers, as we see that days later. The young boy starts to grow weaker as he tries to survive on small fruits he finds along the way, but soon the area is bombed, forcing him to flee once again. One day, while exhausted and drenched by the rain, Serioza can barely go on. Eventually, 2 Russian soldiers find him and carry him to their camp. After arriving, Serioza meets the commander of the base, Kuznetsov, who orders his men to take care of the boy. From that point on, the soldiers began calling him by a new name, Sergei, and as he recovers, the soldiers continue to bond with him as they find comfort in his presence amidst the brutal war. One of the nurses, Katya, takes special care of Sergei, and despite being injured, he remains curious and enthusiastic, eager to learn about being a soldier. His charm and resilience quickly win the hearts of those around him. One day, the soldiers discover a goat that had wandered into their camp and brought them a rare moment of joy as the animal provided them with milk and cheese, which were luxuries in their harsh environment. Kuznetsov is relieved to see that Sergei is recovering well, though the boy playfully complains about the painful injection he received. When the young boy shows interest in the commander's pistol, Kuznetsov gently reminds him that he is too young for such things. However, the commander is impressed when Sergei shows him a drawing of a battle tank he made on his stomach, as the boy's creativity and spirit continue to lift those of the soldiers. But despite the growing affection the soldiers have for Sergei, Kuznetsov is adamant that a child doesn't belong in a war zone. However, Katya, who has developed a deep bond with the boy, begs Kuznetsov to let him stay. But he refuses as he tells her that he plans to send Sergei to an orphanage where he would be safer. The soldiers are disheartened by the decision, but Kuznetsov insists that it's for the best as he tells them that he has already signed the papers for the boy's transfer to the orphanage. But on the day Sergei is supposed to leave, an enemy attack occurs, and after Kuznetsov helps Katya rescue a wounded soldier amidst the chaos, they return to the camp and find the orphanage director waiting to take Sergei. So, Kuznetsov sits down with the boy to explain what is happening. But before he can say much, Sergei bursts into tears and hugs him, saying he was afraid he would never see the commander again. This show of emotions leaves Kuznetsov speechless, and in the end, he puts away the orphanage papers and asks Sergei if he would like to be his son. The young boy is overjoyed and quickly agrees, as the two embrace. Now that Sergei is officially part of the camp, the soldiers set to work getting him a proper uniform. Katya finds him the smallest boots she can, and after some adjustments, they fit perfectly. The next morning, Kuznetsov gives Sergei his new uniform and challenges him to get dressed in 45 seconds, like a real soldier. With a matchstick as the timer, Sergei hurries to meet the challenge, and when finally finishes, Sergei proudly shows off his uniform to the other soldiers. However, the war is never far away, and during a surprise attack, Kuznetsov orders his men to protect Sergei by taking him to the shelter. As the bombs fall, Sergei helps where he can, as he offers water to the injured soldiers, and during one of those days, one of the men, who has bandages over his eyes, asks Sergei to read him letters from his family, but the boy can't read yet. Instead, he makes up good news to comfort the wounded man, doing his best to bring some hope to the camp. And even in the chaos, Sergei often sings to lift the spirits of the soldiers around him. Despite everything, the child manages to bring a sense of peace and relief to the men who are fighting for survival. Later that day, as Sergei takes a nap on Katya's lap, Kuznetsov arrives and sits beside her, wanting to talk, but before he could start, Sergei wakes up and interrupts the moment. Later on, as the camp rebuilds, some soldiers spotted the young boy shaving, and when they tease him, asking if he's preparing for a date, Sergei responds that a soldier doesn't go on dates. He then proudly reports to Kuznetsov, asking what his task for the day will be. When Kuznetsov notices a bandage on Sergei's face, the boy explains that he accidentally cut himself while shaving, just like the commander had earlier. Kuznetsov is amused at how the young boy thinks, and he decides to give Sergei a mission to retrieve letters from the truck that is about to arrive and distribute them to the soldiers. As Sergei enthusiastically goes about his task, it's clear that despite the horrors of war, he has found a family among the soldiers, and they, in turn, have found a reason to smile again through him. Sergei begins to truly enjoy his responsibilities at the camp, especially when he sees how happy the soldiers are when they receive letters from their families. So, after he completes his tasks, he puts on a camouflage suit and sneaks around, as he uses his binoculars to keep watch. But one day, while doing so, he spots a pair of boots hiding in a haystack. Realizing what this meant, he quickly runs back to the camp to alert the others. Soon, a group of soldiers, including Andrei, follow Sergei to investigate and discover two enemy soldiers hiding. After a brief exchange of gunfire, they manage to capture the intruders before returning back to camp. When Commander Kuznetsov learns about the boy's role in capturing the spies, he is very proud of Sergei's bravery, and he surprises Sergei by telling him that his adoption has been officially approved. Overjoyed, Sergei rushes to share the news with Katya. And on their way, Sergei tells his new father that he once saw Katya crying when Kuznetsov was injured, as he insisted that he knows Katya likes Kuznetsov. This leaves the commander surprised as they search for her. Meanwhile, Katya is washing herself by the river when a soldier approaches her from behind and teases her in a friendly gesture, before he offers her some flowers. She is clearly uncomfortable, and when Sergei and Kuznetsov arrive, the commander pulls his son away to avoid the awkward scene. Sergei eventually goes to meet Katya and tries to call out to his father, only to see that Kuznetsov has already left, feeling embarrassed. A few days later, during another battle, Sergei is tasked with delivering ammunition. After doing so, he overhears his father and the soldiers discussing a broken communication wire. Without being told, Sergei sneaks off to help fix the problem as he crawls on the ground to avoid enemy fire, until he finds that the soldier who had gone to fix the wire has been wounded. Thinking fast, the young boy asked the wounded soldier how to make the repair, and he eventually followed the soldier's instructions to reconnect the wire and restore communication. This allows the commander to call for reinforcements, and the young boy's brave actions that day helped save many lives, leaving his father deeply proud. Now feeling inspired, Sergei sets out on a new mission: to bring his father and Katya closer together because he believes that the two care about each other, but are too shy to approach the matter. So, Sergei tells Katya that the commander is sick and leads her to his room. When Katya arrives, she finds Kuznetsov lying down and wakes him in a panic. Kuznetsov feels embarrassed before he suddenly realizes what Sergei's plan is. So to make amends, he tries to confess his feelings to Katya. However, Katya is left flustered as she quickly leaves before he can say anything significant. Days later, Sergei goes out to play with some rescue dogs that have just been delivered to the camp as he rides on a wheeled stretcher, pulled by the dogs. Suddenly, the dogs see a rabbit in the woods and immediately chase as they speed towards a dangerous minefield. That is when one of the soldiers named Retso rushes in on a motorcycle to save Sergei just before disaster. In the end, everyone is relieved to see that Sergei is unharmed. In the meantime, Kuznetsov tries to make amends with Katya as he pursues her into the forest, and, while still struggling to express his feelings, he awkwardly brings Sergei into the conversation as he tells her that the boy loves her and has asked if she would consider becoming Sergei's mother. And just before Katya responds, a soldier interrupts with a letter for Kuznetsov, and the moment is lost once more. The next day, the soldiers are ordered to move to a new location, and on the way, they stop at a house, only to discover a live German bomb buried in the floor of the house. So, the soldiers quickly help the homeowners safely remove the bomb and then continue their journey. But as Sergei rides with Retso and his father in a vehicle, there is a sudden explosion in the vehicle after running into a minefield. The loud explosion shakes everyone, and in the end, Sergei discovers that Retso has died in the blast. But despite this tragedy, the soldiers press on and eventually reach their destination. And once there, Kuznetsov and the general give Sergei a new task to inspect the soldiers' uniforms and bring back a report. So, Sergei takes up the responsibility as he checks each soldier's boots and clothes. He then makes a list of those with damaged uniforms and delivers the report to the general. Later that night, as Sergei and his father walk through the forest, Kuznetsov tells him about an upcoming award ceremony known as the Guard Insignia. He tells the young boy that it is a special badge awarded to those who show great bravery in battle, as Kuznetsov proudly tells Sergei that he will be receiving this honor, making him the youngest decorated soldier of World War II. During the ceremony, Sergei is very excited as he is awarded the badge. But a few days later, a German bomb drops on their camp, and Kuznetsov is buried under the rubble. When Sergei sees this, he desperately tries to dig his father out, but being too small, he is unable to lift the heavy debris. Fortunately, other soldiers soon arrive to help, and Kuznetsov is pulled free and taken for medical treatment. Although he is badly injured, he survives, and after a period of recovery, he is ready to march with his comrades once again. And by the end of the movie, we are told that in 1943, Sergei was officially recognized as the youngest soldier to serve in World War II. He had been awarded a Medal of Honor for his bravery and dedication, and this forever marked his place in history as a courageous boy who faced and survived unimaginable challenges during the war. And that's the story of the movie, Soldier Boy. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment for us. Until next time, stay safe.